What's going on, Bottom Line viewers? It's Mitch here of the Bottom Line View by myself today, the first time of these NHL playoffs. No Trent, no Kev, no Adam. It's just me here. I'm here to discuss the two games that happened today for May the 6th of 2017, discussing the Ottawa Senators overtime afternoon win against the New York Rangers, and also the Washington Capitals 4-2 victory over my Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, we're going to start off with the Washington-Pittsburgh game, but I want to know if you guys are live here with me in the chat, what you thought of today's game. So be sure to leave in the chat your thoughts on the Senators game or the Pittsburgh game and your thoughts on where the series is heading. If these games really mattered in the long scheme of things, like is this like the biggest game of the series, or do you still see it going the way that you predicted it at the beginning? So let me know what you guys think in the live chat. For sure, I'm going to get into these games. We're going to start off with Washington's victory over the Pittsburgh Penguins 4-2. For the most part, this was a very evenly played game until the third period, and that's basically when the Capitals scored 3 goals in the third period. The Pittsburgh Penguins were actually up 2-1 going into the third period, and it's very rare that they do give up a lead going into the third. So as a fan myself, I was kind of sitting pretty comfortable until the Caps started scoring. And when they scored those, 2 goals in a row, I kind of knew that this probably wasn't going to go their way, especially when Ovechkin scored that big goal. We'll get into his performance for sure because I've been very critical on Ovechkin, and we'll get into why that is. But the Washington Capitals do find a way to win this one, do find a way to tighten the series, and do find a way to fight another day to go to Pittsburgh on Monday night to play the Penguins in game number 6. Now, I really thought that this game was very even after the second period. Pittsburgh was ahead 2-1, had a couple better opportunities to score, and that's why they scored. Now, in the third period, I think the biggest thing that did happen in this game is that Braden Holtby started to make big saves. Now, I've been very critical as well of Braden Holtby. The guy's reputation is that he's one of the best goalies in the NHL. Now, he only did stop 20 shots, but he stopped a lot of prime opportunity shots in the third period. That kept his team in it. Eventually, Washington just chipped away, and they got a few bounces here and there to put some goals in the net. They got a bounce off Ovechkin's, Ovechkin shot it, somebody blocked it. Hainsey, I believe, it hit off his shoulder, got it back and shot it at the net. Same thing happened with was it the Backstrom goal or I think it was the Backstrom goal where he shot, no, Kuznetsov, sorry. Kuznetsov shot it. It was blocked. He got it back and it went in. So there was 2 goals in this game for Washington that were some bounces needed to go in, but they at least got those bounces and they went in the net and they won the game. So I think if you're a Pittsburgh fan like myself, I think you need to, pause. Nobody thought that Pittsburgh was going to beat them in 5 games. I said 6. I still think that they'll be able to get it done on Monday night. But, on the other side of things, you do have to be a little bit worried if Holtby does play the way that he has proven he can play in the past and maybe make some key saves. You got to be, maybe you're not overconfident going to the next game, but you know that this Pittsburgh team can get it done when it matters most. Now, if you're a Washington fan, I think you need to hope that the bounces do go your way again, and hopefully they do for the next 2 games because definitely Washington in the third period, yes, they did score 3 goals, but 2 of those goals came off some rare bounces that you don't usually see. You don't usually see a player block a shot and then it go right back on the tape of the player's stick that had it before, and they shoot it back in the net. I thought that this was the first game where Holtby outplayed Fleury for sure. Fleury didn't have a great third period. I thought he played a relatively good game overall. I thought he could have stopped the Backstrom shot for sure. I thought it was a little bit weak, and those other ones were kind of just lucky bounces going Washington's way where he couldn't really get back into position to stop it. The first goal I felt like was okay. I mean, it was a nice shot by Burakovsky, but I didn't think like it was a snipe whatsoever. But Ovechkin's shot was very nice. He pretty much had no chance to save that. On to Ovechkin's performance. This is the first game where I actually noticed him because of the goal But besides the goal, if he didn't score a goal in this game, we would have been saying the same thing we were saying game after game after game. Where was Ovechkin? All I noticed him was when he was on the power play. I mean, he got the goal. That's great. And maybe that will provide a spark for his team heading into next game. But other than the goal, I didn't really notice him being a huge difference maker in this game. But this was definitely his best game. He had 4 shots. He had the goal. He had 6 hits. And he had a block. So he was all over the ice. And maybe shifting him from line to line did help him and help his confidence. Eller did help as well. Playing with Ovechkin, had 2 assists in this game. Kuznetsov had that 1 goal. Backstrom had the 1 goal. I thought Backstrom's kind of been one of the best players for Washington throughout the entire series. Shattenkirk got another assist. Schmidt got an assist. Carlson got an assist. Oshie was a little invisible in this game, yet he was a plus. He was a plus. Oh, no, he wasn't a plus. Sorry. Oh, yeah, it was a +2. Never mind. I don't know what I'm talking about. And then we have some of the players that I didn't think played too well for Washington. I didn't think anyone played terrible in this game like I've been really critiquing them in the past. I actually thought Tom Wilson, believe it or not, played a pretty good game in this game. Early on, I just didn't think like they came out like a team that was desperate to win the game. And they didn't come out like a team that this was win or go home. But finally, in the third period, they did come out with that momentum, and they simply wanted it more than the Penguins at the end of the day. Looking at the Penguins, they did have the re-additions of Crosby and Sheary to their lineup. Crosby did get an assist in this game. I thought he was okay. I didn't think he was fantastic or anything. He did win a ton of faceoffs, 15 in this game, only lost 7. He had 3 shots on goal. He created a couple opportunities here and there, but he wasn't like absolutely blockbuster Sidney Crosby. He wasn't fantastic. Kessel had a goal on the power play, but he was a -2. Hagelin was a -2. The Malkin line was a -2, so that is a concern. You could also point to Washington. Carlson did a good job on Malkin in this game, being a +1. I thought this was his best game of the series, and this was by far Malkin's worst game, maybe even of the playoffs. I just didn't notice Malkin that much. He did have 3 blocks. He did have a hit. He did have 2 shots on goal. He did take a penalty, but he was a -2, and he just didn't seem like he was desperate to score like he was the last couple of games. Or without Crosby in the lineup, it seemed like Malkin was on another level from everybody else on the ice. But now that Crosby came back, it just seemed like he didn't have that same attention to detail, that same effort level. Besides that, looking at the rest of the roster, I didn't think Kunitz had a particularly good game. They shifted him back down to the 4th line in this one. Daly did get injured. I don't remember if he came back or not. I can't quite remember. And I did think that this was the duo of Schultz and Cole's worst game. I think Cole has been playing fantastic all playoffs long. He's been getting in the shooting lanes. He's been shutting down opposing lines. But Schultz didn't seem great offensively. He didn't pop up in the play very often like he usually does. And Cole, defensively wasn't making a lot of right decisions in his own end. And offensively, he couldn't hit the net. So, I mean, I thought those guys were kind of on the negative side of things. Fleury, this was his worst game of the series, but I didn't think he played terrible. He stopped 28 shots on 32 saves. I think that the Pittsburgh Penguins will rebound next game. Interesting thing to note about this one is there weren't many penalties called. There was 3 in the first period, 2 in the second, and 0 in the third period. I thought there was multiple opportunities to call a penalty in the third period. It seemed like the refs put their whistles away and let the teams play. So that's an interesting thing to note looking forward to Monday. I think that honestly does help Washington because Washington does like to play a little bit more of a chippier style of things. And, Pittsburgh can do that. They have certain players that do that. But Washington does benefit from, the refs kind of easing off the penalties and letting their guys kind of just be physical and kind of, push the envelope in terms of physicality and like getting away with clutching and grabbing and stuff. I thought there was a little bit too much of that in the third period, but there was no penalties, so you can't really say much about it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. This was an okay game to watch overall. I thought it was a pretty exciting game for the most part. This series, you can just tell when you watch this series that this is quite obviously the 2 best teams left in the playoffs. Like, that's at least what I get from it, that these teams are playing at a different pace of things. especially when Pittsburgh is on. You can see them, really being really good. Washington had a very good third period, and they looked like the dominant team in this game at the end of things. That's why they got the win. They were the more desperate team to get this win. Got to, give the credit where it's due for Washington. I thought Holtby stepped up. I thought Ovechkin stepped up. I thought their top guys stepped up, and Pittsburgh's, a couple of them let them down. So overall, we'll see what happens Monday. If Washington can win that game, it'll make things ultra interesting. But I'm going to give the advantage to Pittsburgh because they did it last year in the same fashion of things. I think they'll probably do it again, but we'll see what happens. I do think that Fleury will bounce back. I do think that, Crosby kind of coming off that concussion, I think he'll have a better game. And I think, just Pittsburgh overall, they'll fix things up and they'll win. So I think if you're a Pittsburgh fan, I saw quite a few on Twitter a little bit worried, but I don't really understand why, because if you look back at the beginning predicting this, a lot of people, first off, were predicting Washington to win. Second of all, nobody thought this was going to be an easy series, including myself. I said it would go at least 6 games. So I think people, especially like we talked about in the Columbus series with Pittsburgh, we'll talk about it again. I think, we just got to worry. We don't got to worry about anything. We just got to look back at what was the expectation. It's going to be a long series. It wasn't going to be a sweep. It wasn't going to be 5 games. So, yeah, that's the Pittsburgh Penguins. That is the Washington Capitals. 4-2 for the Capitals. Now let's move on to the overtime thriller game. But before we do, let's get to some quick live comments. SportsFX85 says Cap Stars finally showed up. I would agree with that. Packers said, I think the Rangers blew a great opportunity today. Definitely we'll get into this game. Oshie was good against the Leafs, but hasn't done much since. I agree with you. Oshie kind of, especially in this game, was very invisible. I thought that he was excellent last year in the Pittsburgh series, but this year, kind of invisible. I mean, I think Backstrom, of the 3 of those guys, Backstrom, Oshie, and Ovechkin, Backstrom has probably been the best. I don't think they really had a good game as a team until this game, even including the game that they won. I didn't think that they were like overly impressive. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel about Oshie as well. SportsFX says Cap's first line played great tonight, and Penn's second line did not play good tonight. Also thought Hagelin was pretty good. My problem with Hagelin, and this is not a problem with Hagelin, this is a problem with the coaching. I don't understand why they don't put him on the penalty kill anymore. As a Penguins fan, I mean, this guy was excellent on the penalty kill all last playoffs. I understand that he's been injured and you don't really want him, and their penalty kill has been really good. But it just seems like when he's on the penalty kill, he creates more turnovers. He creates more offensive opportunities because he's so fast. And I just like to see him kind of more intertwined into the lineup. It was interesting to note, about Hagelin, that they did try and put the HBK line together at the end of the game. They tried to shift the lines. And again, Wildfire says, where was Malkin? This was by far his worst game, still leading the playoffs in points, but this was by far his worst game in my opinion. Offensive and defensive side of the puck, he didn't seem too engaged. He didn't seem too into it. Was that due to Crosby coming back? Was that due to his pressure being lifted off his shoulders? I think Malkin does need a little bit more pressure added to his shoulders to get the best absolute Malkin out of him. I think next game we'll see a little bit better from him and he'll be more motivated. But my thing with Malkin is they were trying to put, different guys with them. Like they moved Rust and Sheary from the third line to the second line. I did think that in the first and second periods, especially the Bonino line was really, really good, creating a lot of opportunities. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with that line and they move Rust and Sheary around. But, it's a loss for the Penguins. I think if you are rooting for the Penguins, you don't have to worry too much. If they do lose next game, it's going to be different, though, because that Game 7 could go either way. So Game 6 is on Monday. Watch out for that. Bodo says, still don't understand why Crosby was in this game. He should have waited one more game. He seemed healthy to me. If he gets the clear, it's a concussion, so it's not a physical injury where you have to wait a certain amount of time. A concussion is if your mind is right and if you pass all the tests, you're pretty much good to go. So I'll leave it to the Penguins medical team to decide that, not myself personally, but that's just how I feel about it. You don't know how his head is feeling. You don't know if he's having headaches. If he was, he wouldn't be playing. So they've been very careful with Crosby in the past. I don't think that they will be, just rush him out there for no reason, because they've waited on him for a very long time, and they're very cautious with their players, especially Crosby and especially Letang. So, those two players have been very, very well taken care of. Bodo says, well, these teams usually go 6. Yeah, I think they went 7 in 09 and they went 6 last year. So they usually at least go 6. I think my guess will be that it goes 6 and it will end on Monday in Pittsburgh. But if it doesn't, I wouldn't be shocked. Let's get to the Rangers in Ottawa. This game was very exciting to watch, especially in the third period. 5-4, Ottawa takes it. They lead the series now 3-2 after 2 terribly played games in New York. They bounced back and they played a good game. Henrik Lundqvist had 32 saves in this game. Anderson had 29. The goal scorers for the Rangers, Fast and Holden, it got them out to a 2-0 lead, basically with 5 minutes into the game. Ottawa responded a minute later with Mark Stone in the second period after a 2-1 lead for the Rangers. Ottawa responds and takes a 3-2 lead with Hoffman and Pyatt scoring. Then McDonough scores for New York at the end of the second, tying the game up. Going in the third, it's 3-3. Then you get a Jimmy Vesey goal in the middle of the third period, and a Derek Brassard ties it up near the end of the game to send it to overtime, where Kyle Turris scores the game-winning goal off basically, he kind of like shot it. Again, that's weird, like the Capitals game. Shot it, it hit a defenseman, he got the puck back, went around the defenseman, and put it 5-hole on Lundqvist. Nice goal for Kyle Turris, and overall, Ottawa wins it in front of their home crowd. I thought their home crowd was really, really, influential in this victory, especially near the end. If this was on the road, it might have been a little bit different, especially after going down 2-0. I think it would have been big after, in the first period. That might have hurt them. But Ottawa's crowd kept them in the game. Then near the end of the game, they really got them going and gave them the momentum going into overtime, which was a big, big deal. Wildfire says, you're a Pens fan, but doesn't part of you see the Caps move on? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if this was just a bad game from the Penguins or if this was a good game from the Capitals. Wildfire, I don't know where I stand. I know you're a Capitals fan, so I know that you're going to want the positivity on the Capitals side. But I'm kind of like in the middle. I think that my guess looking at this at the beginning was Pens in 6. So I'm going to stand by that and say that on Monday the Penguins will win. But if they don't, in 7 games, it can go either way, and either team has a good chance. I've always been with the Penguins, not only just because I'm a fan, but because I just feel like they are the better team. So we'll see on Monday what happens. But, if your team does win on Monday, we'll see, and we'll revisit it, of course. But that's just how I feel at this moment in time. I just feel like some things in the third period didn't go the Penguins' way. A couple of those bounces went the wrong way, and the Capitals capitalized on that, and I give them credit for that. And their players played better in this game. But they haven't shown enough consistency like the Penguins throughout the entire playoffs for me to say that they're for sure going to take this series now. How many games have we actually seen the good Holtby? How many games have we seen a good Ovechkin? How many games have we seen a good Capitals team? Not many, including the ones that they did win against the Leafs. So I can't say that I know what team's going to come out for the Capitals. And I'm more certain that the Penguins will play a good game in Game 6 at home, where they've been very, very good, than anything else. So that's what I'm just looking at. Sports of X says Brassard's getting his payback on the Rangers. Quite honestly, when Brassard was on the Rangers, he was always my favorite player on that team. Now when he's on the Senators, he's right there with Kyle Turris. I think Brassard's a very underrated player. Both ways of his game is very good, and had that nice goal at the end. I don't really know what happened, if he batted it out of the air, if he tipped it in with his skate or something. But yeah, that was a huge goal, and the celebration was just awesome. And we saw him with the 3 stars of the game. He gave the stick in the crowd, and he was doing the whole Ottawa jersey thing. And he just looked really pumped up. He looks like he's enjoying his Ottawa Senators run right now and getting back at that Rangers team. Packer says Stahl really let the Rangers down. The Rangers defense in this game might have got a little bit, exposed. They've played very well the last couple of games, but in this game, I didn't think that they played too great. Holden did have the goal. McDonough did also have a goal, but the depth of their defense, it does show sometimes that their speed is not really there defensively. You look at the Stahl, Giardi, those two guys, just occasionally you'll just see them get beat and beat and beat. And that's kind of what happened in this game. I did think that for a rookie, Vesey played pretty well. Fast had 2 points in this game. McDonough continues to be their best defenseman for sure. I think, looking at this, the step-on line with Zuccarello, they kind of just seem dangerous. Like, Zuccarello didn't have the most impressive statistical game. I did think that the one thing that let the Rangers down the most, is they've been having a lot of productivity, a lot of production from their fourth line. Like, last game, Tanner Glass was like the best player on the ice. In this game, the fourth line for the Rangers wasn't very good. Glass -3 in this game. Lindbergh -2. Miller -2. I mean, just the Rangers' fourth line was very sloppy, not very good offensively. They weren't creating any opportunities. And defensively, they're a liability. So for me, that was a huge difference in this game. The performance of the fourth line from last game to this game for the Rangers was a huge drop. So that was one of the reasons why. Looking at Ottawa, Carlson was again magnificent. He had 3 points, +3. He was on the ice like the whole last 10 minutes of the game. Like the whole last 10 minutes of the game, the guy did not come off. MacArthur, 2 points in this game, had another good, solid performance, as well as Smith with 2 assists. Brassard did have that clutch goal. He also had 5 shots in the game. Kyle Turris had 9 hits. He also won 7 more than he lost in the faceoff dot, was a +2, and had that goal. Hoffman had a goal. Stone had a goal. I thought all the big-time players for Ottawa played a good game. You look at Carlson, Brassard, Turris, Hoffman, Stone. All those guys produced statistically. That's part of the reason why they won in this game. The negatives for them, CC was a -2 in this game. Phaneuf, I thought, played okay. Stahlberg, he's not really been living up to expectations as a Senator. Bobby Ryan was kind of invisible in this game, not very noticeable for me, especially near the end of the game. Besides that, of course, Neal had the 12 penalty minutes. He did what he was supposed to, I guess. Anderson played a pretty decent game. I mean, he maybe let a couple of soft ones. He usually does let one soft goal in a game, which is not really, the best thing ever, but he's not a top tier goalie, but he can play one occasionally. He's pretty good. I just don't think he's top tier, but he did enough to get the win. Ottawa's offense has been pretty impressive. When they do win these games, they have scored a lot of goals. So that's a positive point. But their defense does need to get a lot better, I think. New York's defense was terrible for the most part in this game, and that was a huge thing, as well as their fourth line. Any questions about this game? Not much really else to add. Senators did get the win here. They did try and actually, I think they tried to replay the last goal, but it was a clear goal. So interesting. No big call today. No big call going either way. So Jet says, Pens will win next game. Don't worry. Sports of X says, I hope Pens Caps go 7 games. That would be crazy. Darth says, I don't. Sports of X says, also, I wonder if Holtby will start playing better now because he did last series after game 5. Just saying, it could be just a coincidence. Or maybe he could be adjusting his play. Maybe. I mean, I still don't know where I stand on Holtby. Like I said before, he can play good. I didn't even think Holtby had a great game. He had a good period, but he had a great period, maybe a period and a half, but I didn't think he had a great game. So we'll see. Maybe the momentum will carry over. Maybe it won't. It's hard to tell with the Capitals because one game they play well, one game they don't. there's no trend for the Capitals this playoffs. It's very hard to tell. Like, that's why I'm saying, besides being a Penguins fan, guys, I know I'm a Penguins fan, okay? You don't need to tell me that. But the Penguins have been more consistent. That's why I rely on them next game. I'm not saying that the Capitals can't do it. I think that it's going to be a very even matchup. I just don't know. And I will give the Capitals credit for this. I didn't think when they were down 2-1 going in the third period that the Capitals would be able to win the game. Quite honestly, I know it was only a 1-goal spread, but I just thought the Capitals would give in. I thought that they would be done. I thought that they needed to come out hot and score a couple goals at the beginning to win, but I got to give them a little applause for coming out and having a strong third period, which was kind of unexpected from my end, and definitely they outplayed the Penguins, and definitely they got the bounces and they capitalized on those bounces. Evan says, hi, Mitch. What's going on, Evan? Packer says, I don't trust Holtby. Man, I don't either. I've been calling him overrated. I still stand by that. He did have a very good game here. He seemed composed, but I still don't trust him. SportsFX says, why wouldn't you if you're not a Pens fan? That game would be so much fun to watch. Bro, I would be kind of nervous if it went 7. I'm going to be quite honest with you. Jeremy says, Mitch, shots 32-22, hits 38-14. Are you talking about the Penguins game? I think you're talking about the Penguins game. I got to say this, though. Are you talking about the Rangers? Because you're a Rangers fan. I don't know which game you're talking about. Let me see. Being quite honest with you, I don't think that the hits matter that much. It depends on the team. Let me know who you're talking about. Are you talking about Pittsburgh? Okay, Pittsburgh. So yeah, I got to tell you this though. Like the Penguins also, if you look at every single one of their games, I don't know if they've outshot their opponent once. In like, how many games have they played? Like 10 games. I don't know if they've outshot their opponent once, maybe once or twice. But like, it just seems like the Penguins are a quick strike offense and they don't need a lot of shots. And hits wise, they don't hit very much. I mean, there's only Kuznetsov. Like, it's not looking at those things, it's not a recipe for them to win the game. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, with certain teams, it is. Like, certain teams that need to get a lot of shots at the net to win, and teams that need to get a lot of hits and play a physical game, that definitely matters. And I think that does kind of matter for the Capitals. But for the Penguins, there's something about them where they're a quick strike offense. They can score with ease when they get the puck. The second thing is they don't really hit because they're a speed team and they're not physical. So when looking at those stats, they can be a bit deceiving, but definitely the Capitals won the third period, and that's why they won the game. 3-0 in the third period. They came back. They scored 3 goals. Simple as that. They won the game just like that. But why I was saying that they got bounces was because the way that the game went in the third period, the way that they scored their goals more than anything. Like, it bounced off Hainsey, it went right back to the player. It bounced off Cole, it went right back to their player. Like, that's what I was talking about in terms of bounces. Not necessarily that they got outplayed, because they didn't. The Capitals outplayed them. I was just saying the way that the goals went in, the Capitals got a little lucky with the bounces going back to their players. Jeremy, I'm interested to see what you think about your Rangers. Jet says, I have a bad feeling that if the Pens win this series, they'll lose to the Ducks or the Predators. I don't think so, bro. I've been saying all year that I think that the East, and specifically the team that wins the Penguins Capital series, is going to win the Stanley Cup. So I've been sticking by that since basically last year, and September and on for sure. I've been saying that. I just look at this series and I just think these teams are superior to the ones that are playing in the West. I do think the Ducks are solid. They've proven themselves against the Oilers. The Oilers still have a chance in that series. They're playing very tight games. The Predators, hard to know because they play every game 2-1. I do think it would be tough to win games in Nashville, and I do think Nashville's defense is very good. So, I think Nashville and Anaheim are 2 good teams, but I just don't think that they're on the Penguins and maybe even the Capitals level. But we'll see if that does indeed happen. Evan says, I'm cheering for the Predators and the Senators to make the finals. Going for the underdogs, I understand. Packer says, fingers crossed, dude. Evan says, the only series that is going 7 is Ottawa versus New York. Probably. I think so. I think that the Ducks, looking ahead, I think the Ducks will wrap the series up tomorrow. And I think that the Predators will as well. Predators are at home. I think that they'll finish the series 4-2. And I think the Ducks will win 4-2. And then I think on Monday, is it only the Penguins that play on Monday? If it's not, if it is the Rangers, Ottawa, I think that the Rangers will tie it up and it will go 7. And I would probably lean towards Ottawa at home in Game 7. And then I would go with Pittsburgh to wrap it up on Monday in 6. So I think the only series that's going to go 7 is the Rangers series. But we'll see. What else we got? Dar says it's always nicer to win at home. For sure. But, win anytime is nice. Sports FX says, just found it interesting how the Pens outshot their opponents 19 out of 24 games last year, but they have only outshot opponents once this year. Yeah, I know. That's a very interesting trend. It is tough to figure out. But watching the Penguins all year this year, they have just been a team that, they're I don't know what it is. It's a very hard style of hockey to justify. It's kind of like in football, like a team won't have long drives, but they'll score a lot of plays that are like 40 plus yards. You know what I mean? Like it's not like they're going to go, from the 10 to the end zone. Like the Penguins won't shoot 40 times a game and score 4 goals. If they shoot 40 times a game, they would probably score 8 goals. You know what I mean? Like they're going to score 4 goals with 24 shots. Something like that most times, more often than not. So that's just how I feel about how the Penguins are playing right now. And hits have never really been a part of their game. Jeremy says, tough loss, but I think they'll come back and win this series. Interesting. I think it's definitely going to be, I think it will go 7, and then Game 7 is going to be I have no idea. We'll see from there. Evan says, I wouldn't mind seeing the Penguins repeat either. Bobby says, same here. I'm a Penguins fan, though. Jet says, on paper, the Nashville is definitely deeper than the Penguins, though, right? Obviously, that doesn't mean you can't win, but am I right? I think that they're deeper offensively, but I think their forwards I think the Penguins' forwards are much deeper. But I think the Predators are deeper defensively, which causes a good matchup of the Penguins' offense versus the Nashville defense. And I think the goaltending this playoffs is pretty even. Pekka has been really good, and Fleury has been really good, minus this game for the most part. So, yeah. Jeremy says, I thought you guys thought Ovechkin sucked today. He had 1 goal, 4 shots, and 6 hits. I said that this was Ovechkin's best game. So, I don't know where you got that from. Bobby said Crosby gets the game winner. Interesting. My favorite player is my boy, Bo Horvat. What's with the Bo Horvat? Evan, can you respond to this? What's with the Bo Horvat bandwagon, bro? It's all the Canucks fans? I live in Vancouver. What's with the Bo Horvat bandwagon? Let me know about that. SportsFX says, from a Pens fan perspective, who do you think can give the Pens the best challenge from the West? I think the Preds, because they can force. I think so too. I think it's the Predators because Rene is the best goalie. And I think that their defense is by far the best. I think Anaheim is too slow to play Pittsburgh, and I think Pittsburgh would do what they did to the Sharks against Anaheim. And I just think, that style doesn't match up against the Penguins, but I think Nashville would give the Penguins a tighter series. I also think that the Capitals would I think the Capitals would probably prefer to play Nashville than Anaheim because I think Anaheim is very similar to Washington. Sorry, I think they're very similar teams. Anyways, guys, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. But Evan, last couple things here. Evan says he is supposed to be the Canucks' next captain. So I think everyone is jumping on for the ride. Yeah, I liked him a couple years ago, and then everyone just started jumping on the bandwagon. That's why I was just I was just poking fun, but I think he is probably going to be the next captain. Jeremy says, Mitch, remember that shootout game between the Rangers and Pens last year where the Rangers won, but it got overturned? I don't know. Too many games. I don't know if I remember. Maybe. I probably watched it. I just don't remember it. Taco Bro says, go Pens. Jet says, I believe Nashville would be tougher than the Sharks last year. It would be a classic series. Well, we'll see. They still got to get through the Capitals. Anyways, guys, this is your recap for May the 6th, 2017. If you did enjoy, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. For sure, we do recaps of the Stanley Cup playoffs every single day. So make sure that you're on here live. You can ask me questions, and we'll occasionally, most often, we have a bigger cast of characters. We have the one, the only Canucks fan, Fitty Trent. We have the man that is on audio, Kevin Olenek, and we also have Adam, who really hates all my teams. So if you guys enjoy what you see here, you probably should subscribe. We also have NFL. We have WWE. We're trying to do, we're going to start the NBA recaps for the playoffs in the Eastern and Western Conference Finals. With Dylan will be primarily covering that, and I'll be on occasionally. And what's the last thing I was going to say? More videos coming out for the NFL, looking ahead to next season, because that's primarily the #1 sport, along with hockey, which has really been awesome because we've had a lot more subscribers for hockey. So thanks, guys. Taco Bros, what's going on? He wants a shout out. Go Penguins, go Preds, go Pens, go Canucks, go Capitals, go Rangers, go Blues, go Ducks, says Jeremy. So from Mitch of the Bottom Line View, hope you guys enjoyed this recap. See you again soon. See you tomorrow. Peace out.